YouTube. So just to inform everybody that this meeting is being recorded. So please note that when you're making comments or if you need to make an intervention, please note that the meeting is being recorded. My name is Maria Fontenelle and I'm the communications person for Eastern Caribbean Alliance for Diversity and Equality, ECADE. As most of you would know, from what I'm seeing, everybody should know ECADE. And I will be issuing, and I think we may all be issuing reminders during the meeting for you to mute your mic if you're not speaking at the moment. Okay, well, let me start my video. Hi, everybody. Hey, and welcome to the launch of this, what we hope is going to be a fantastic project. It started out really well so far. So we'll be launching a survey on LGBTQ plus experiences of intimate partner violence in the Eastern Caribbean, which is why we've issued the invitation to organizations that work with the LGBTQ plus community, as well as organizations that work with women and girls and other marginalized communities. You'll be getting an overview of the survey tonight from Dr. Laurie Sudderth. Did I say that correctly, Laurie? Yes? Okay. And you'll also be getting an overview from our partners in St. Lucia who've been working on this project with ECADE as well. All right, so we don't want to take too much of your time. So we really, you're here to learn about this project. So we'll start initially, I will introduce Catherine Seelys. Catherine Seelys works with Raise Your Voice Saint Lucia, and she is more or less the driver, one of the drivers of this research. And she will let you know a little bit more about how Raise Your Voice Saint Lucia is involved in this research. They've worked with Dr. Sudderth before on other projects. We've met her in other forum, but definitely when it comes to her work in St. Lucia, she's worked very closely with Catherine. So Catherine will let you know how that work has happened and how it has evolved into this particular research that we're launching tonight. All right, Catherine, are you ready to give us a sense of what's happening with you and with this research with Dr. Sudderth as well? I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, everybody. This research started sometime last year, and the initial research was to do a field research project on gender-based violence in St. Lucia. We've done the initial research to find out the issues to test that research instrument. And then Dr. Sudderth decided to look at intimate partner violence in the LGBTQI community as well within the OECS. So our support had been to provide admin support, liaise with staff at Louis Community College for approval and what have you, and to do the instrument testing on the ground for this research. It has been quite revealing, really, because we used agency personnel, managers, supervisors, people that provide frontline services, and a lot of people, after they had filled out the sample research document, spoke about how all-encompassing the research survey was, and it was something they were looking forward to. There are two reasons for that. We do not have domestic violence data in St. Lucia. Normally, the Department of Gender Relations would collect from the Women's Support Shelter, Crisis Center, police, and Gender Relations and Human Services, and the Family Court. But for some time now, for the last 4 years, we've not had any data. So this project is quite timely in the sense that it will give us a picture of view of the status of domestic violence in St. Lucia, not only women and children, but in the LGBTQI community. And this kind of information is very important. It's important, and it informs how you work on the ground. It informs how you report on gender-based violence in St. Lucia. It also assists you with having information when you prepare grant applications, because donors are always asking for data and statistics on gender-based violence. So, yes, take it. So we look forward to this research. Our path from here on forward is to ensure that as many people as possible in and out of the LGBTI community fill out this research, so we can get a good idea of the status and the prevalence of domestic violence and gender-based violence in St. Lucia. I think I'm done, Maria.
All right, thank you very much, Catherine. As Catherine indicated, we don't have a lot of research on gender-based violence in St. Lucia, but I think that extends to most of the Eastern Caribbean, because the situation is similar in most of the countries. And of course, you cannot have too much research in that in any area as well, because the environment and the terrain keeps changing, and it always requires renewal of the information that you have and the progress that's happened or not in the country that you've done the research in. So of course, having that continuous research is extremely important. And we need that not just for where it concerns women, but intimate partner violence where it concerns other marginalized communities, in particular lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex people as well, which is why we're having this research. We'll hear next from Millie Moses, who is the Interim Executive Director of United and Strong Inc in St. Lucia, which is a long-serving organization that's been advocating on the behalf of the LGBTQI community in St. Lucia. And she will speak to United and Strong's involvement in this project. Millie?
Hello, everyone. I'm Millie. With regards to what both Catherine and Maria have said, in St. Lucia, we have little to no information on domestic violence, except for independent organizations or NGOs who are working with persons who have been victims or survivors. So with this research project, the fact that it also encompasses the LGBTQI community, it is actually quite beneficial, not just to St. Lucia, but also the wider or the marginalized communities that often go unnoticed, often go unrecorded and seen. So this participation or working with Dr. Sudderth, I don't want to mispronounce it. So Dr. Laurie and Diane, having the opportunity to work alongside them and partnering on this research, it gives us a deeper insight. It gives us a view of what is actually happening in homes and on the ground, because we don't have data to actually cover those things. And with the survey and the report that is going to be provided, we're hoping to partner up, especially with other organizations like Raise Your Voice, where we can actually help in developing domestic violence bills and acts. We have been invited to, I think, a few sessions with the Gender Relations Department for St. Lucia, and as Catherine stated, a lot of information is missing. So we're hoping that with this survey, we can fill in the gaps that are currently part of our gender-based crisis as it relates to domestic violence and also intimate partner violence, because it's not just gender-based violence we're focusing on, but we're also looking at intimate partner violence when it pertains to the LGBTQI community.
Thank you, Millie. So the other partner in this project, of course, is ECADE, the Eastern Caribbean Alliance for Diversity and Equality, which I have been speaking to a little bit. But just to expand on that a little more, ECADE, for those who may not know, is an independent umbrella organization, and we serve organizations that primarily do advocacy work on behalf of the LGBTQI plus community, but we also have membership such as Your Voice Saint Lucia that works with other marginalized groups such as people living unaffected by HIV, youth, women and girls at risk, etc. And this is how ECADE came into this research as a consequence of that. And with our mission, which is to, as much as possible, to help to build the capacity of the organizations so that they can help to defend human rights. Part of that is, of course, access to research, which we don't always have, and we don't always have the funding to institute. But with the work of Your Voice Saint Lucia and Quinnipiac University, am I saying that correctly as well? Yeah. It gives us just one opportunity for us to have that toolkit that we could use for advocacy, because we find often in particular spaces that is the first requirement that a lot of, particularly policymakers, that is one of the first requirements if there's no study on it, it doesn't exist, right? And this will assist us in having those tools so that we can better fight the good fight for LGBTQI plus people on St. Lucia and in the Eastern Caribbean as well. So ECADE will, through its network, try to disseminate the survey, and the membership who are here and those who we've shared it with previously, we've shared this information with, we'll be working with them and we'll be working with Dr. Sudderth to ensure that this is disseminated as widely as possible in the Eastern Caribbean. We'll be working to promote the survey online. We'll be sharing the information on our social media pages. We'll be doing direct mailings as well. If you'd like us to forward this email or the information on the survey, the link to the survey, to any particular organization that you're aware of that may be interested in the work, please reach out to us directly and we will do so. You will also have access to Dr. Laurie's information that you can contact her for further information on that and for disseminating the survey. We will have a portion for questions, but I just wanted to put that out there because that will, for the moment, be ECADE's primary role, and that we'll be using our network to disseminate the information on the survey and to follow up with everybody to ensure that as many people as possible have access to the survey, and our membership is able to assist the individuals who may not be literate enough or will not have access to the internet to be able to assist them, as many people as possible, in filling out this survey. So the information that we gather will be very rich and it will be very reflective of the Eastern Caribbean space. For more details on the survey, we'll turn to Dr. Laurie right now. She'll give us some more technical information about how the survey was developed and some of the ethics issues that we know we must have. We must have all these bases covered to have the survey be a legitimate survey. So she'll speak a little more to that right now.
Thank you, Maria. And I want to say thank you to ECADE and Your Voice Saint Lucia and United and Strong for the good work that we are doing together. I appreciate your support very much on this project. My name is Laurie Sudderth. I am a sociologist by training, although I've studied mental health services as well. I've had the pleasure of working in St. Lucia several times as a consultant to improve policies and practices to address gender-based violence. This year, I was fortunate enough to get a Fulbright grant to conduct research in St. Lucia to document intimate partner violence. The grant funded 2 trips to St. Lucia. And I did visit St. Lucia from mid-December to mid-January of this year. And I was able to meet with members of ECADE, Your Voice Saint Lucia, and United and Strong. And I showed them the survey. I gave them showed them my ideas for research on intimate partner violence and how to be inclusive of the LGBTQ plus community in the survey. And we have worked pretty closely together to come up with a survey that would be inclusive. So that's what I wanted to talk to you, talk about tonight. My second trip, of course, has been delayed because of COVID-19, but we had thought about a separate survey targeting the LGBTQ plus community And that survey was going to be online anyway. So we thought we would go ahead and launch the online survey and wait until travel advisory is lifted before I can get to St. Lucia. So that's kind of the way that it worked out. We have received approval from my university, Quinnipiac University, which you pronounced absolutely correctly. We went through a fairly rigorous process to get it approved. We had to apply. It went through a committee, an ethical committee at the university. We went through a meeting where they basically asked us a series of questions about our research plans. We revised the application and they gave us approval in July. We also have received support from Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, which is actually my Fulbright host, and they have been very generous in their support. Before I go any further, I want to introduce Diane Hassania. She is a graduate student at Quinnipiac University. She is very much the technical director of the survey. And I may let her introduce herself just briefly. Diane.
Hi everyone, my name is Diane. I'm a second-year medical student at Quinnipiac University. I'm really excited to be working with Dr. Sudderth on this project. I think it's going to be really great and very useful information.
I am very grateful for Diane's help. I say she's the technical director, and I'm actually going to direct any kinds of technical questions about Qualtrics or how the survey works or data privacy. All that I'm going to direct to her. So she is really very much a collaborator in this project. I wanted to give you a little bit of just a snapshot of the literature on intimate partner violence and the LGBT community. And this is an international literature search that I've been doing over the last year or so. Some of the research has suggested, for example, that intimate partner violence rates are higher in the LGBTQ community as compared to heterosexual counterparts. And other research has suggested that the rate is pretty much the same. There's been some research suggesting that bisexual and transgendered women report higher rates of intimate partner violence as compared to lesbians. There's been that type of research. And recently, 2020 publication, Donovan and Barnes published a book, came out of the UK, and it is the largest study to date on intimate partner violence in the LGBTQ community. And they found that participants who identified as transgender had higher rates of intimate partner violence than the other comparison participants, particularly around emotional abuse. I think 60%, over 60% had experienced emotional abuse. Otherwise, in the LGBT community in the UK, if you compare males and females, the rates of intimate partner violence were about the same. They also looked at perpetration of intimate partner violence and again found that if you compared males and females in the LGBT community, the percentages were about the same. Now, other types of literature look at reporting to authorities. Do LGBT participants or survivors report to counselors, medical personnel, police, social workers? And the literature tends to suggest that they may be less likely to report to frontline workers, to the police, etc. And part of that may be fear of coming out or having to come out in order to report intimate partner violence. The UK study suggested that survivors worried actually about stigmatizing an already stigmatized community. But that however you frame it, there's very little reporting to authorities. This impacts the criminal justice system as well. There's good evidence in the United States that intimate partner violence among same-sex couples is taken less seriously by the police as compared to heterosexual couples, and that ends up being, that translates into fewer arrests. So there's not much record in the official data in the United States. There is anecdotal evidence that those same attitudes exist in the Caribbean, but it's difficult to change policy, and my colleagues tonight have said this more articulately than I have, than I'll be able to. But you need data to make change in policy and practices. Data is very important in terms of understanding trends, in terms of moving forward, in terms of change. We need to know how often this happens. We need to have some idea of how often this happens in the Caribbean LGBTQ community. We need to know more about the characteristics of intimate partner violence in the LGBTQ community. More about disclosure patterns. In other words, when you are a survivor of intimate partner violence, who do you talk to, both on a formal and an informal level? This kind of information can be used to inform advocacy for better services. It can feed into training modules for frontline workers or policymakers. It can raise awareness in the general public, and as some of the other participants on the panel pointed out, you can fold this easily into grant applications. So we need the data. There is no study like this in the Caribbean of intimate partner violence in the LGBTQ community. So we need the data to take the next step and make change. Let me tell you a little bit about the actual survey. The survey is completely online. I am interested in participants from the Eastern Caribbean who are age 18 or over, with or without experiences of intimate partner violence. We're specifically targeting LGBTQ citizens, but if you do not identify as LGBTQ, let's say if you identify as heterosexual, but you have had experiences in a same-sex couple or in something, in a relationship like that, I still would be interested in having you fill out the survey. We need to be able to compare LGBTQ participants who have had intimate partner violence experiences with those who haven't. That should not stop you from filling out the survey. The survey, as I say, is completely online, so you'll be able to access it through a link. And this allows participants to fill out the survey anonymously and at your own pace. You do not have to fill it out in one sitting. You can if you want to, but if you have, if you want to fill it out and save your answers and come back to it later, there is a mechanism for doing that. If you have no experiences of intimate partner violence, this will probably take about 5 minutes tops. Diane has arranged it so that you do not have to fill out irrelevant questions. It would take about 5 minutes for some people who don't have these kinds of experiences. If you do have experience of intimate partner violence, then it may take anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes, depending on the extent of your experience and how much time you want to spend filling out the survey. We do have an open-ended question at the end for you to anonymously offer any suggestions, comments to policymakers or frontline workers, to organizations that serve the LGBTQ community, anything that you would like to say to them. There's a place to record that. Many of the questions I want to point out are very direct. They ask very specific questions because we want to get accurate data. We want to make sure that we're getting accurate information. So they're very direct. If you're filling out the survey and you find this upsetting or triggering, you can stop at any time and you do not have to continue the survey. It's certainly voluntary. You can also save your answers and come back to them later. You can also reach out to some of the resources that we have listed for survivors of intimate partner violence, both at the beginning of the survey and at the end of the survey. We have resources, phone numbers, websites that you might find of interest. So we're hoping that you can print that out or write down the information that is of interest to you. So the questions include experiences of intimate partner violence, including physical violence, sexual violence, emotional abuse, and financial abuse. We ask questions about who you disclosed this information to, and at the end of the survey, we ask some questions about sexual violence, who you disclosed to, and how they reacted to that disclosure. So that gives you an idea of what the survey entails. Let me tell you a little bit about the logistics of the survey going out. We are launching the survey today. It is going out through a link in an email from ECADE, from United and Strong, and from Raise Your Voice Saint Lucia. These organizations may also have their own way of advertising the survey on social media, including Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram. The survey is going to be up and online for a month, and there will be periodic reminders to complete the survey, and then we will take it down on September 13th. Diane and I will then work on the analysis after that, and we will write up a report that will be shared with your membership, and any organizations that would like to have access to it certainly will. All right. So with that, I do want to again say thank you to ECADE, United and Strong, and Raise Your Voice Saint Lucia for this their very collaborative support of the project. I would be very interested to hear any questions that anyone has that I can answer about this research. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sudderth. Okay, I see that we have no questions at present in the general group. Do you have any questions on YouTube or Facebook, Kenita or Randall? And if anybody in the chat at the moment would like to ask a question, please raise your hand and we can see whether that can be addressed by any of our speakers here tonight. Paige says she has a comment. Paige, go ahead and unmute your mic and you can go ahead.
It would include mother and son who get into a physical altercation. So it would include any kind of family members who are fighting each other. In the United States, in some states, it even includes roommates. So it's a much broader category. In this particular survey, I focused on intimate partner violence. if it turns out in a different, when we start looking at the data and think we could have expanded it by including other categories, maybe that would be the next study. Maybe that would be the next thing that we do. But in this study, I focused only on intimate partner violence.
Okay, we have one other hand up, which is just a number. I will ask that person to please make their comment or ask their question. That's 946544.
Okay, good night. You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, good night. This is Auden from Mesh. Yes, my question is basically I know you all said that that the survey will be done online. My question is for persons that doesn't have internet access or any way of filling out the survey online, will there be any like printed materials that they can use to fill out, and then someone can put it in for them, or how would that work?
Also an excellent question. And I'm probably going to bring Diane in on this one because my understanding is that we don't have a way of printing it out at this point. It's in Qualtrics. If there are two other options I can think of. One is if there is someone who could help. In other words, if you have a friend or a colleague who has access, who would allow you access, you could fill out the survey that way. The other option, which is probably not as attractive, is to wait until I come to St. Lucia, and then I can just bring you a copy. I could bring copies of the survey. If my friends from ECADE or Raise Your Voice Saint Lucia contacted me and said, I have 100 people who don't have access to the online survey, and I think they would really like to fill out the survey. I would have to print that out, figure out how to print that out here. In other words, I would print a slightly different version of the survey and get it to St. Lucia when I would get it to St. Lucia when I'm able to come there. So I would be interested in that feedback, and we knew we would definitely lose some people by doing it online, but in the era of COVID, we thought this was probably the safest way to do it. Some of my friends in St. Lucia suggested to me that this might also be a way for people who maybe are not as out, not as open about their sexuality. It might be a way for them to fill it out with a little more privacy, as opposed to an interview, for example. So does that answer your very excellent question?
I also just wanted to add a quick comment, Lori.
But Diane, because I was about to ask you to comment on that, I also want you to comment on the possibility of somebody facilitating, like sitting here with, which is a scenario that Dr. Sudderth brought up, somebody assisting another person in completing the survey online. I wanted you to speak a little more to that as well.
I just wanted to mention, so our ethical review committee was not open to us doing paper copies for the sake of that it might risk anonymity, and that there might be like ways to identify people, or perhaps like if there isn't a secure location to store surveys that someone's get out there. So that's another reason why we are using purely an online platform at the moment. I think what Lori was getting at wasn't necessarily someone sitting and assisting someone, but rather asking a friend to use their internet access in order to complete the survey. Was that correct, Lori?
Yes, that was the idea. I think the ethical committee was very concerned, and rightly so, that we want to make sure that that people are not taken advantage of, not hurt by taking the survey, and so they felt that paper surveys had more risks of identifying people, of losing the privacy, losing the security. They were not quite convinced that we could keep those safe. So it was in the interest of participants that they made that requirement. If I find out that, in fact, if I find out that people really would prefer paper copies, or they really would prefer an interview, I would need some feedback, and I would have to go back to the ethical committee and run it by them again.
We do have 1 month in which we, of course, like that would give us a week or two to get that kind of feedback to determine that. So that is out there for, and I think we can, as ECADE, communicate that when we are sharing the survey as well. We have 2 more questions. One is whether this survey is for the entire Caribbean, and the other one asks how many people are being targeted for the survey. Yeah.
Very good questions. We had originally targeted the Eastern Caribbean simply because we were talking to ECADE. We are based in St. Lucia, so that basically is where we were targeting our participants. Was the Eastern Caribbean. The entire Caribbean, I think, would be, again, I'd probably have to go back to the ethical committee and tell them I've expanded my sample quite a bit to do that. But we originally said the Eastern Caribbean was what we were going to target. In terms of numbers, I am guesstimating here. I think when I estimate, I try to think about how many participants I need in order to do an analysis that will be respected. And so for me, that means I need about 200 surveys completed if possible. If there are more than that, that just increases our confidence in the results. I think 200 is kind of the minimum that I'm looking for, and it is one of the reasons that we wanted to focus on the Eastern Caribbean rather than just in St. Lucia.
Is that adequate? Billy, I think, asked that question. If it's not, you could ask a follow-up question. Meanwhile, Millie had a comment to make. Millie, go ahead. And then I'll call on Alex afterwards.
Okay, so my point was just in regards to the point that I forgot the 946 number made with regards to persons who would not have maybe internet access or tablets or laptops. So United and Strong does have a safe space, but then again, that is in St. Lucia. We do have laptops that persons can come in to use if they would like to fill out the survey. So the laptops, and we have desktops that can be made available for use should somebody need to fill in the survey.
Okay, and that's something that the other islands can look into, and once that fits in with the questions that, or the issues that would have been addressed with the ethics committee, then that should be fine. Yes, Diane or Laurie?
I think so. Because it offers access to people who want to take the survey. So as long as they are willing, voluntary, it's voluntary, they would like to do this, then that would fulfill the concern of the ethics committee.
For sure. And we have worked, most of the organizations have worked with other types of surveys. And generally, I think one of the main things that is a requirement when working with our organizations is to be fully aware of confidentiality and try as much as you can to protect people's information, protect their identity, and try to provide services in a way that does not compromise them, because we know it's not just a matter of reputation, but it can often, in some instances, be a matter of physical safety and life and death, loss of jobs, etc. So that is certainly something that we do hold very sacred in terms of maintaining people's confidentiality and trying to accomplish our work while ensuring that we do not further put our community at risk. Alex, did you still want to ask a question? Alexandrina Wong?
Yes, please.
Go ahead, please.
I do share a concern about confidentiality and eliminating and reducing risk wherever possible. I know in some situations there was something developed, a component where the survey could have been downloaded and filled out offline, and once the person gets in a Wi-Fi spot, it could have been uploaded. Not being an IT specialist, I'm not sure how that works, but one of my colleagues did speak to situations with persons not having internet access. So is it something that can be downloaded and saved offline and filled, and then when in a space, uploaded and sent?
To my knowledge, with the Qualtrics platform, that's not possible. But like Lori said, there is a save and continue option. So if you have limited internet access and you get it started, but have to leave the area where you have internet access, you can save it and then return to it. And like she said, it will be up for a month. But yeah, unfortunately, and for the sake of anonymity and security, it cannot be downloaded, filled out offline, and re-uploaded.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions of any of the other platforms? Okay, I don't see any hands up or any further questions. Oh, there's one new message. Let me see what that is. No, okay, no, we don't. We don't have any other questions. I would take that to mean that our presentations are very comprehensive. And the follow-up questions also handle any other unclear issues for everybody else on the call. All right, can we just have a few words to end, Dr. Sudderth, and then we'll wrap up? Does anybody else, in terms of Catherine and Millie, could you let me know if you want to say anything before we end, please? Okay, go ahead, Dr. Sudderth.
I just want to say that it is a great pleasure and a privilege to work with ECADE and to work with Raise Your Voice St. Lucia and United and Strong. I have been to St. Lucia many times now and have grown to love the island and the people there. And I am hoping that this work, this research, this study will contribute to the Eastern Caribbean societies to make change that is progressive, to train frontline workers better, to fold this into grant applications that will improve civil society, and basically offer better services for survivors of intimate partner violence who identify as LGBTQ. And I thank you very much for your assistance, your collaboration, and your attention tonight.
Likewise, thank you so much, Dr. Sudderth, and for the other work that you've done in St. Lucia. Thank you to Catherine Seeley's of Raise Your Voice Saint Lucia, to Millie Moses of United and Strong, and thank you, Diane, who's assisting Dr. Sudderth. From ECADE's part, we want to just assure you that we do our best to ensure that we disseminate this as widely as possible, and we open to anybody's questions. As a follow-up, we open also to putting you in contact with anybody on this call that you'd like to be put in contact with. And we appreciate as much input as we can on this survey. So please disseminate it within your communities, within your membership of your organizations, and continue to support and share on social media, not just ECADE social media, but Raise Your Voice Saint Lucia social media, United and Strong social media as well. And share as widely as you can so that the responses that we get can be quite diverse and really reflect what's happening in the Eastern Caribbean. If you're not from the Eastern Caribbean, but you have individuals that you know in this area or colleagues that you work with in the Eastern Caribbean, please share with them. And we appreciate as much as you can assisting us with the work that we are all involved with, advocacy work. And as we look to shift policy, as we look to change hearts and minds. And we thank you for joining us tonight and for continuing to work with us. Have a blessed night, everybody, and wake up on the right side of the bed tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Diane.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Millie.
Bye.
Mm.